Okay, this is the project we're going to be painting today. It is my Fall Colors packet. It is probably one of my most popular ones that I sell. I've painted it here on a surface that's from Cabin Crafters. It's just a little frame with an insert that attaches on the back. The frame itself, I wanted to point out how I painted it because I won't be doing it on my piece today. But I rolled on lamp black, and then I took the very tip of the roller and rolled into some ultramarine blue and just kind of randomly placed that around here and blended it gently in with the black. And then I did the same thing with Georgia clay to get those colors within the frame there. And that's how I did that. Another thing that you can paint this on, that I have painted on, is this box. And this box came from Hobby Lobby, and when they come you can get them in brown, green, gold, a golden yellow, and an orange color. And this is the orange one, and they only have them in the fall, so at fall I'll buy them up, and they're usually printed with something like this on the front. So I just leave the base of the box the color that it is, and the top of the box is textured a little bit, which is perfect for painting on. So I just use some household gray primer and cover it with that and roll on my black and go from there. Great boxes to gather up. And then with this one I made a set of 6 coasters, put cork on the back of them, and these are just the paper coasters or the cardboard coasters that you get at any restaurant. Most of them, if you'll ask if you could have a handful, they'll gladly give them to you. So I did the same thing, gray primer on them and painted them, and now that's a nice little gift set to give somebody for a gift. Now on this one I did a little bit of trim around this, but I didn't add the blue. I just did the Georgia clay when I taped it off. And then the other thing that I have painted my leaves on is this terracotta pot, and you want to clean your pot by wiping it down with a damp cloth. You don't want to soak it in water because then you'll have to allow it several days to dry, preferably in the sun, because the clay will just soak up the water. And then I seal mine inside and out with 2 coats, sometimes 3, of I just like to use a decoupage, like a Mod Podge or DecoArt's, decoupage medium. I like to use that on here, and I just put it on with a sponge, a damp sponge, inside and out, 2 coats. And then I just applied my black paint the same way with a sponge, or if you want to spray paint it, you can spray paint it with a flat black. It needs to be a flat black so that your paint will stick to it well enough, and it won't be anything else other than a flat. Will have a little bit of sealer in it, and it may keep your paint from sticking very well to it. So, a basic bottle of paint is going to be a flat paint, so you want to keep it the same consistency there. Okay, today I'm just going to paint on some matte board here. This matte board I just got at Hobby Lobby. They sell it in sheets of 4x6 sheets, and so I just go in there and I ask them to cut it down into 4 big squares, and equal size squares. They charge you 50 cents per cut. So then I bring it home and I have a cutting board, and I'll just use a roller cutter, and I will cut it down to the sizes that I need. So that's a good tip for a surface to paint on if you're teaching and you need some affordable surfaces. And you can paint on the other side. I've painted on all of mine. I paint on both sides. Sometimes I even paint over something I've taught, and if the paint's not on there so thick that it will cause a raised area. So we're going to start on this. I've already got my base coats on, and my mat board in black, and then I've got my base coats on. Now I wanted to tell you about the pumpkins down here. They are undercoated with moon yellow, but on these two outside ones, they are jack-o'-lantern orange. So what I did for my moon yellow coat on these is I mixed it equal parts of moon yellow and jack-o'-lantern orange for the underneath coat, and then applied 2 coats of jack-o'-lantern orange, because the jack-o'-lantern orange is a little bit more thin in the color, a little more transparent, and it won't give you as good a coverage. So you need to do that. And up here I didn't undercoat any of these leaves. I just put 2 coats on each leaf. So we're going to get started here, and we're going to start working on the leaves. So I'm going to zoom you in a little bit here so you'll be able to see good. And we are going to start shading on our leaves. We're going to work on the marigold leaves first. And these colors you want to put out on your palette. Persimmon, cad yellow, olive green, and avocado. Now, when I paint small, I don't need to dry rub or dry brush on them. Like when I painted on this box here. I didn't have to do any dry rubbing because it's a smaller surface. So all of the colors within the leaves are just floated on. But on this bigger piece that I'll be teaching on today, I will definitely be doing some dry rubbing on them. Okay, so we've got persimmon, cad yellow, olive green, and avocado. We'll have those colors on our palette. And if you are doing like the coasters, if you're doing something where you're painting this on several different surfaces, I would highly recommend using a wet palette, because you're going to be using these colors a lot within it, and so you don't want to have to be constantly squirting paint out on your palette. If you could, use a wet palette would be better. Okay, I'm going to spray. This is just a little fingertip sprayer that I bought at Walmart in the travel section, and so I'm just going to spritz some water drops on my palette, because I'll need those to soak up when I am floating. So when I'm floating, this brush isn't damp yet, this curved side of the brush, which I like to use these curved flats, that's the side I will pick water up with on my brush. And I'll just come over here and grab some of those little droplets of water, and then I'm not constantly going back to my water basin. If you're using an angle brush, it would be on the heel side of your angle brush that you would pick up those water drops. Okay, let's start with some persimmon, and I'm just working this in, picking it up on the toe of my brush and working it back and forth like this. I like to do it in a little V, and I want to make sure it's soft. If it looks soft right here, when I go to paint with it, it's going to be just as soft. Okay, so we're going to start up here on this leaf, and we're just going to float some of this color. And I'm just going to walk it down a little bit, tap blend it. I always have a mop brush handy, because I always mop when I float, because I use a little bit more water than most people. So we're going to use this color within all of our yellow leaves. Now I've got my little easel thing here, and I will probably just spin it around like this, so hopefully that won't be too distracting for you. And I don't worry if I get it over in the black, because the background is a solid black, I can go touch it up when we're completely done painting this project. I can just go touch it up. Now, when you float this, you will have to do it more than once. So you'll have to let it dry as you go to each leaf. By the time you come back for that one, it's going to be dry. So this leaf over here, I'm just going to create a little on this side, and I'm going to kind of walk it out in like a V on that leaf. Gently tap it. This softens it and blends it down in, so you don't have any hardness there. Okay, so this one's already dry. So we're going to go up and intensify that and maybe pull some of that over. I need some water. Pull some of that over across here a little bit. But I mostly want it to stay in here. I love fall colors, just my absolute favorite colors of all to paint. And so when I designed this, I just pulled out all of my colors that were my favorite colors and just began playing around with them and working them. Gently tapping that. Okay, you can already see those colors starting to pop on there a little bit. It's just a beautiful, beautiful palette for this project. Okay, just a little bit. I want these leaves to remain gold, so I don't want to cover them too much with all the other colors. Okay, let's go into some avocado now. Well, let's see. No, let's go into olive green. We'll use that, and we'll just use the avocado here in a minute to deepen that olive green just a little bit. Right now, we just want to go straight olive green. Okay, and up here on this one, that's probably not showing up too well on the camera because it's such a light green, but it will when we mix some olive in, or some avocado in with it here in a little bit. Okay, this one, I want to go down this side. Actually, I wanted that to be on the other side. Oh, that's right. That's right. Never mind. Never mind what I said. Okay, and then this one's going to have it right here. I have to turn my other lamp on. It looks awfully dark there on the camera. Let me flip my op light up here. Let's see if that will help you be able to see these colors a little bit better. A little bit. I don't know how well that's helping you, but we'll keep it up for now. Okay, so I want to take that olive green and mix just a little bit of avocado in with it. I didn't darken it too much. You see, there's the olive green, and there it is with a tiny bit of avocado mixed in with it. I'm just going to come put this on the edge, so I can already see I need to deepen that. That's not dark enough for me. So I'm just going to go tip into my avocado a little bit more. There we go. I want it dark like that. Oops. Okay, very gently mop that. I'm barely mopping. Okay, then down here. I've already gotten to my black, but that is okay, because I will mop that back up here in a little bit. let me go up here and do this one again. Make sure it's dry. Needs to be a little bit darker. Yeah, we're seeing those colors really pop. Alright, let's see. The cad yellow is our last color we're going to float on here. And it's because I want this to stay pretty yellow. I want it to be a yellow leaf. So on the gold areas, where there's what's left of the marigold that's showing through, I'm going to just put in some of that cad yellow. Keep this leaf more on the yellow side. And then when we're not going to dry brush right away on these, I'm going to, I'm just softening that back with my finger when I touch it like that. I'm going to finish all the floating. And so that I won't have to have a bunch of dry brushes. I'm going to dry brush all of the leaves at the same time. Okay, so those are the yellow leaves. Now, let's see, the next leaf. Let me turn a page here on my instructions. Okay, the avocado leaves. These two leaves here. We're going to use tomato red, which we don't have on our palette, olive green we have, and black green. So I want to put some tomato red out and some black green. Now if you don't have black green, it's very easy to make. You take your avocado and mix black with it, and you will get a black green. Usually it's going to be probably 2 or 3 avocado to 1 black. Okay, I'm going to start with the tomato red, and let's see, where did I put this? I put it out here on this one. Now when this red starts drying, it's going to fade down into that green pretty good. I just wanted in that section there. I just kind of walked it out a little bit. Now I'm just barely tapping, smoothing that out. Here. I really like these curved flats for floating. If you haven't tried them, I recommend that you give them a try, because they are wonderful brushes. Low Cornell curved flats. They come in a 6, a 10, and a 12. They only have the 3 sizes of them. Okay, I'm going to let that red dry a little bit. Since we only have the 2 leaves, kind of have to break it down a little bit. I'm going to go into the black green. And this color is going to be down in here. So, oops, excuse me. I'm going to put it down in here. Just walking that out. Now I'm going to gently mop, soften that, and blend it down in there. You don't want to have any hard lines when you're mopping. And you can probably see how irregular that looks right now. When you do your second float and then when you do the dry brushing, it will smooth it all out. If you're doing a smaller project, when you do the second float, that will smooth that out. So don't worry about that. It's a good idea to always float twice, because the first time may be too thin, too irregular or something, and the second one will just come in and just smooth it out and make it look beautiful. Need more water here. So it's always a good idea to float 2 times when you're floating. And you just saw how I walked that out. Didn't worry too much about how it looked. I just was basically getting it pulled down into the leaf. Okay, we'll go use some of the olive green. Okay, we're going to keep it over here on this side. Just walk that out a little bit. Gently, gently tap to blend it. If you tap too hard, you're going to remove your paint. And when you need to clean your mop brush, you go to a wet spot on your paper towel and you wipe off all the paint. Then you go to a dry spot and you dry it off. And there, it's nice and dry. Mop brushes come in black and white. I like the white because I can see when they're clean. If you stick it in water, you need to have an extra one on hand because they take a little bit to dry. And you don't want to use it wet because then it will just remove any paint that you put on. Just tapping it, moving it up that leaf. Gently, gently. I know it probably sounds and looks like I'm just going to town on that, but just gentle, gentle. Alright, it's dry enough now. We can come put another coat of red and bring that out a little bit. And I'm going to make it a little bit thinner because I don't want it to get right there where I have it. I don't want it to get any darker than that, but I need to move it out a little bit. So, this is kind of washy, a washy float, and I'm just going to walk it out there a little bit, tap it, just tap walking, gently, gently. Okay. And the mop brush off. Get some more water drops. I love having the water drops on my palette because, you know, then I'm not constantly going over, barely tipping my brush into the water basin or getting too much water on it or cleaning it off and having to reload it all over again. Now I know on the video, on the camera here, the red looks like, woo, that's bright, bright, bright on that green leaf, but it looks just right. And when we get done adding all these other colors in here and dry brushing on here, it'll all flow together beautifully. Alright, we're going to go with the black green again. I'll bring this out just a little bit more. That way when we're dry rubbing, we're not having to get right up close to these other leaves. Gently, 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 gently. Now, a good tip here, if you're painting these leaves and you feel like you've lost the base color that the leaf was, you can go back in the areas that are a similar color, like this green leaf, this black green, and that olive green. I can take my avocado and just make a wash out of it and wash over those areas. I wouldn't want to wash over the red areas, but if I feel like I am completely losing that leaf is green, or if I was completely losing that these were yellow, then I would go back and wash some avocado, the base color, back over it. Now, for the yellow ones, I don't know that I would necessarily wash over avocado. I don't think I put any yellow on this one. I better do that. Doesn't look like I put any yellow on it. Let me do that real quick. You can tell the difference between the marigold and the cad yellow. The cad yellow is so much brighter, and that's what we're building up, those bright colors on those leaves. Okay, olive green here on the green ones. Repeat that. Brighten that up. If I get over into the black, I'm not going to worry about it. I can touch that up. No worries whatsoever. Okay, I had a little bit of a hard line there, so I rubbed just a little bit harder right there. You don't want any hard lines. When we're dry rubbing over this, we can probably remove a lot of those, but you want to try not to have them. Walk that up. Gently blend that. Okay. Getting those colors coming out. Oh, it's looking great. Looking great. Okay, we're going to go to these cocoa leaves next. And we're going to do tomato red, avocado, persimmon, and cad yellow. We've already got all of those colors out on our palette. So we're just going to go and start right in. So this one here, I want to put some red on this side. And because of our base color of each one of these leaves, even though we're using these colors repeatedly within the leaves, because of the base color, they're not going to look the same. And that's what makes these leaves really, really pop. Okay, this one here, I think I just used the red more towards the center, but you know, really you can put these colors wherever you like to have them on your leaves. So you get to be the judge. If you like exactly where I'm placing them, then you can place them there. If not, you can put them where you like them, where you think they would be the most appealing. So you can be the judge of your own painting. Okay, I'm going to finish with this red here. I'm not going to put too much more on here. Just a little bit. Alright, we're going to go next with avocado. Down here. Once you get your leaves painted in too, if you don't like the shape of some of them, when you are filling in with your black, you can come in and adjust the shape of those leaves. I already know I'm going to have to adjust the shape of this one when I do the black. I'm not quite liking the way that one's shaped. Okay, definitely need more paint. More paint, more water. So I'm going to pick up some water drops. Load my paint. I want the paint to come over farther on my brush, so I'm going to push a little bit harder and get that paint over on my brush a little bit. Not so much on the very toe. Oops. I guess I can go ahead and do that one. It's dry enough. I think I could put a second coat on there. Make sure my ferrule's dry. Don't want water running down. That's a little cool. It's not quite dry. Persimmon and cad yellow are our other two colors. You can tell when your paint's dry if it still feels cool or cold. When you check to see if it's dry, then it is not dry. Oh, goodness gracious. I have that thing on the floor yet. Alright, let me clean my mop brush. I've cleaned it for a couple of passes. Okay, persimmon. We're going to do persimmon next. Okay, I want a little bit of that persimmon in here with the red there, and then a little bit over here. I don't want to lose that cocoa color, so I'm just going to keep this more to the edge there. This one's going to be out here. Brush bristle there. Alright, let's repeat that. Okay, now let's go with some cad yellow. This is why you want to use a wet palette. If you're a slow painter or you're doing several projects at once, then you don't have to worry about your paint drying out. Okay, with the cad yellow on this one, I just put some down the center. Worked it out just a little bit. I didn't use too much cad yellow in this one because I want to keep that looking like it's more brown, but it's got to pop like the other ones are popping. So we have to have some of it in there. Now remember, this isn't all we're going to be doing. We're going to be dry brushing in some colors here, so don't think this is the only thing. Unless you are doing a small project, again, like I said, then you'll be just a couple of floats and you'll be done with it. Okay, the Georgia clay leaves, which we only have one of those. We're going to use avocado, cad yellow, and Georgia clay plus tomato. So I don't have Georgia clay out here, so let me put that out. Okay, so we're going to start with the avocado. Now, if you wanted to read through the instructions and mark down which which leaf has avocado and which leaf has, what color, then you can just go with one color throughout the whole project. But for me, it's easier if I just do one leaf at a time and concentrate on that leaf. Now I want to dry this one. Since I only have one, I want to go ahead and get that second coat of avocado on there. So I've just got a little portable fan here. I bought it at Walmart. It's less than $2, and it has batteries already in it when you buy it. Great fan to take with you when you're going to a paint class, because it's not very loud, and so you won't disturb your person who's painting next to you, and it won't blow stuff all over the place. Okay, there's our avocado on there. Now we're going to go with some cad yellow. I'm going to mist my paints here with my mister because they're starting to get a little bit dry. Alright, cad yellow. We're going to move it, put it over this way. Walk it out a little bit. Dry that so I can get a second coat on there. This would be a cute project on a banner. If you're the kind of person that likes to do banners, paint it on rock lawn, then you could make the pumpkins, instead of being a straight line at the bottom, because this pattern was made for that insert. You could finish shaping out the pumpkins and cut out around them. Alright, let's finish the yellow up here. And make sure this leaf stays on the, that we can tell that it's an orange leaf. So I don't want to be going too wild. Alright, Georgia clay plus tomato red, 1 to 1. So you'll do 1 part Georgia clay, 1 part tomato red. So all I do when I'm mixing 1 to 1 is I dip into Georgia clay, and I dip into tomato red, and then I just go blend them. And there I've got my blending done. All right there, my mix. Because you don't have to worry about mixing up a whole bunch. Alright, this color I want to keep. This is going to keep this leaf a little more on the orange side, so we'll be coming in and adding some lavender in the end after we get our berries and everything on. Okay, let's move on to the red leaf. We're going to use black green plus tomato red 2 to 1. So 2 black greens, 1 tomato red. Marigold and Georgia clay. So I don't have marigold on my palette, so I'll put that out. Okay, so I'm going to start with the black green. this one up here, we're going to have it more to this side of the leaf, because this leaf is kind of under these two. Walk that a little bit. Because your background is black, you could also use the black as the shading if you didn't get your leaves all painted together. But I think it's just easier. If some of that black shows through, that's just perfectly fine, because that adds to the shading. Just a little bit. Okay, this black green on this one is basically, you know, just going around where this leaf lays on top of this one. Actually, that was supposed to be black green mixed with some tomato red, and I completely forgot to mix the tomato red in there. No wonder that was so dark. Like, why is that so dark on that? It shouldn't be that dark. So go back over that, maybe lighten that up just a little bit. That's pretty stark there. This one here. A little bit more black green there. Okay, that looks way better. Gently, gently, gently. Okay. Now, the other colors on this one is cad yellow. So let's see, I don't really know. Cad yellow, I think I only used it down the middle a little bit. I didn't use very much cad yellow on this at all. Not cad yellow, marigold. Okay, it's marigold and Georgia clay mixed together, 1 to 1. Okay, I'll get it. I think we're going to do 2 marigolds and 1 Georgia clay. And I just kept this to the outside edge here. I think when I put the second coat on, I will do a little bit more Georgia clay and less marigold. So over here, I added a little bit more Georgia clay into that. So I think we're going to do the 2 Georgia clay and 1 marigold. I think it's going to be the mix on that. 2 Georgia clay, 1 marigold. Because that was just looking a little bit too chalky over here. And I want to keep these colors bright, 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 bright. Much better. This is going to get our floating done. We're going to get ready to start dry brushing, finishing these leaves out. before I do that. This one here, a little hard line. So I'm just going to take some of that tomato red and just kind of work it in there. Make sure the leaf is a red leaf, not a orange leaf. Same over here. I'm going to put some of that red in there. I'm just rubbing it in with my finger. Kind of getting some of that red back in there. I'm staying off of the yellow and the green. I'm just putting it on the red. Okay? Alright, now we're going to start doing some dry brushing. Or dry rubbing. Whichever way you would like to call it. So we're going to need some stiff brushes here. So, find some good stiff ones. Like these stencil brushes. They're stiff bristles. You need stiff to medium stiff on your bristles. You don't want it too soft or it's just going to drop too much paint at once. And I cleaned all my brushes the other day and now I've got them all mixed in here and I'm having a hard time finding the ones I want. Okay, so what you're going to need is 2 brushes, one for your lighter colors and one for your darker colors. Okay, and you need a dry paper towel. Get a fresh one. Dry paper towel. Alright, so let's start. Let's see. We want to go from our lightest to our darkest in both shades. So we've got our yellows and our greens, our oranges and our reds. Okay? So actually we might have three dry brushes would probably be better. So we can have one for the yellows, one for the oranges, one for the yellows, one for the reds and oranges, and one for the greens. Okay, so let's start with the green. Let's see how many colors I have, how many I have on here with green. Quite a few. Quite a few with red. Alright, so I'm going to pick up green. I've got a dry brush, a dry little stencil brush here. And I'm going to, I put it on my brush and now I'm just wiping it off onto a dry paper towel. I'm getting all the excess paint out of there. You still have paint in your brush, but just not tons of paint. So we're just going to start rubbing. Bringing that out a little bit. All these olive green areas. We have a little bit here. That's mostly olive green there, or avocado green. Okay, now we've done all of our light green areas. You know, as long as you're happy with it, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to pull that color out. Okay, not much at all. I think I'm gonna have to shade underneath there. Some of that black green. Okay, let's take some avocado. I'm just dirty brushing right into the avocado. I think I'll do it twice. That way I can get all of that olive green coming out of my brush. Okay, now we're going to go into all of the green areas that had avocado. And you see how quickly that deposits that paint? It's just amazing. And a lot less work than sitting there trying to float and walk it out and float and walk it out. So much easier. Alright, one more leaf over here. Some of that green in there. If you're rubbing and you feel like you're rubbing really, really hard, then your brush has probably run out of paint, so you need to go reload it. Okay, now I'm going to go into black green. And all my black green areas, which is just going to be probably on these two leaves right here. Just going to block this out. Okay, I know right there it looks like a hard line, but that's okay. We're going to go back with some avocado and smooth that out. So, I tell you what, let me just go right into some avocado. I'm going to work that black green out of my brush, so I'm going to do it twice. Work that avocado in. So we're just going to go in here and add some of this avocado. We haven't dry brushed on the red yet, so can you see how quickly that just blends that in? Alright. I need to float right there next to that leaf. Okay. I'm going to stay with this brush since I mixed black, green, and red here. I'm going to go ahead and put some red on my brush and work it out. I want that mixture in there so I can soften that. I won't need too much of this. Float that black green real quick before I go any farther, or I'm going to forget. Okay, that looks good. All right. Let's go into some oranges. You don't want to clean these brushes until you know you're completely done with them, because they do take a long time to dry. Actually, let's do yellow first. We're going to do cad yellow. So I picked that up on my brush. Work it off of my brush. Some in here. This is a yellow leaf. I want to keep it yellow. Okay, we've got some cad yellow there. So I want to try and work that area a little bit. Now when you get done with this dry rubbing, if you feel like you've lost your edges, say you were dry rubbing, you got over into your black and your edges aren't quite as sharp as what you wanted them to be, well, just go float the edges again or touch them up with your black. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Alright, let's go ahead and stay with this color. Now, I don't think I'm going to need marigold. That's what the base color was on these. And I don't think I'm going to need them. We do need to float. Let's see, this was marigold and Georgia clay over here. So let's just go ahead and dip into some marigold. I'm just going to work it into my brush and dip into some Georgia clay. Remember, it's 2 Georgia clays to 1 marigold, and I just kind of blended that on my brush. Now I'm just going to rub it out like I did all the other colors. And just rub a little bit of that in there. We don't need too much of it because we want that leaf to stay red. See, and already it's not looking red to me, so I'm going to come back when I'm done dry rubbing and glaze over that one with some red. Now I want to go into this one had Georgia clay and tomato. So I've got Georgia clay on my brush. Let me get into some tomato. Alright, I put it on my brush, kind of worked it in to blend it on my brush. Now I'm going to rub it out. I'm going to rub it out. I'm going to put this in here. This is going to bring this leaf back to more of the orange, I think. Okay. Now let's go straight tomato red. I'm just going to stay with the same brush. Go into this area. Oh, too much paint coming off my brush, so I did not rub enough off. You see that really hard mark right there? You don't want that. You want softness. Okay, so this right here. Right here on this one. Okay, now we've got, I'll put a little bit here. We've got the persimmon yet to do. So I'm going to dip into persimmon. So I did only end up using 2 brushes, which is good because I did all my yellows and oranges and reds on this one brush and all my greens on the other brush. Bring some of this out. I have to come back in and add some yellow there. That got just a little bit. A little bit farther than I wanted. Is that all of my oranges? I think it is. I think. Okay, so this one here. I don't think I can work that paint out and get just straight yellow on this brush. I think it's going to be a lost cause. So I'm going to grab my brush and I think I'm going to wash and float a little bit of cad yellow on that particular leaf. It's the only one I feel like got carried away with that orange. Okay, I think I need to deepen this here. It does not look quite bright enough for me. Still looking washed out in there a little bit. Okay. I think with the olive green, I really need to bring that up a little bit. So, let me get my olive green on here. Now this is what I mean by doing a larger piece. You know, you gotta work it a little bit different. If you're doing a small piece, you can just go in and do your floating and don't worry about the dry brushing. I just want my edges to be a little bit brighter. Pick up some avocado. I still think we need a little sharpness on this edge. I'm just kind of going in the edges that I feel need a little bit more defining. Put some more water on my palette here. this particular leaf as well. Okay, those are looking pretty good. A couple more spots here. Get that edge, some yellow that was still showing there. I'll blend that out. I know on the camera this one here looks like that orange is just, when I lay it down like this, it looks like it's just a blob of orange. But it's not. It's softened right there. It's got some softness, so that's just the way that light is making that look. And if I could paint it up a little bit higher, would probably give you better color of how the colors look. But I don't know that it's going to stay on my easel here that high. Okay, our next step is to do the veining. Okay, let's just start. We want to have fresh paint out for sure when we're doing veining. So I'm going to start with my black green, and the avocado leaves are going to get black green. Let's see, are any of the others going to get black green? Nope. All the others are mixed with soft black, so just get black green out here. And then I like to use a 10-0 liner. You can use whatever kind of liner brush that you like to use. You need to get water on your brush and bring it to the paint and pull out from the paint with that water in your brush, and get a little puddle out here that's got quite a bit of water in it, but not transparent. You want it to be like ink because you need it to flow off of your brush. You don't want it to be too thick or it's not going to flow, and you're going to have the tendency to push too hard, and then your veins will be way, way, way too thick. So the green leaves are going to get the black-green veins. So I just go down the center. Now I want it thicker back here. And so I'm going to put more pressure back there. And I can already tell that I need to shade that a little bit more with black-green. It is not near dark enough. And then I'm just going to pull and create. You can make your veins however you want. I just touch back if I feel like they're too dark. The veins are not going to be the focal point on these leaves, so the colors is the focal point. So you don't want to distract from the color of the leaves. So if you feel like that's happening, then just take and mix some avocado in with that black green, and it will tone it down. But if you can stay up on your tip of your brush, then you're not going to leave near as big a line or as much paint. So that will help a lot. Now before I go on, I really need to clean these stick brushes out real quick. Before I go on, I'm going to float right there a little bit more with black-green because it is not dark enough for me at all. These stiff brushes, if you can get to them right away, or if you know you're going to have to use them again, you want to clean them with hand sanitizer. But when you're done, you really need to clean them with a good brush cleaner like Winsor Newton. Something that will get all that paint out of there, because the stiff bristles like that, they really, really hold the paint in there. Don't like to let go of it very easy. muck that up a little bit. And mop it. Gently, gently. Since I darkened that one, I'm going to go ahead and darken the other one a little bit. Walk it out. Gently mop it. Okay. Let's see. The yellow leaves, marigold leaves, are going to be lined with a mixture of persimmon and a tiny bit of soft black. So let me get some fresh persimmon out here and some soft black. So all I'm going to do is take a little bit of persimmon and a little bit of soft black. I'm going to have soft black on my palette because seemed like every other stem or veins used the soft black in it. So I'm going to take some persimmon and just dip into the soft black and mix it in. I don't want it too dark. So I'm going to start putting this on my leaves, and if it's too dark, I'm going to go back and add some persimmon to it, and if I feel like it's too light, then I will go back and add some soft black. But I think we're going to be alright here. Stay up on your tip. I need more water mixed in with it. It's too thick. It did not want to flow off of my brush. This is almost like making tree branches. And if I feel like they're too thick or too heavy, I always touch back with my finger because that just softens it. Now some of these leaves will have a stem that is sticking out on top of some of these leaves, so we will have to add that as well. So let's get all the veins in, and then we'll come back and do that. Okay, the cocoa leaves are the same, that persimmon and soft black. Tiny bit of soft black in that. I can't see it over here on this leaf. I need more water. You want to make sure when you add water to your paint to thin it that you get it off of your ferrule, because if you don't, when you're painting, it's going to run down and leave a big old blob of paint. That will make you very sad. Okay. The orange one up here is Georgia Clay in soft black. Still got a little bit of that on my palette. I think I have enough for one leaf. some soft black in that. Get my water in it, thin it down after I get my color, what I want. Wipe my brush off on the paper towel to get any excess water out of the ferrule. Okay, that needs to be darker, so I'm going to just go mix some more soft black into the Don't be afraid to do finger painting. Soften those veins in there. Okay, the red leaves, the last ones we have to do, are tomato red and soft black. So I can get some fresh tomato red out here. Then we'll come back, and the ones that are on top will add the stems. So tomato red, soft black. Add some water, wipe your brush off, and then load it. Okay, more soft black. Add these a little bit darker. Water. This paint is thick. Too thick. Okay. Some more water for this other one. There's more water on my ferrule. Okay, we're not going to really see the vein up there that comes down the center. See a little bit of it down here. Now, all of these ones that are on top of another one, so like this one here, it's on top of this leaf. So we want the stem to, so we're going to take the two colors that we used, which was Georgia Clay and Persimmon, and we're going to add, Georgia Clay and black, soft black, and we're going to add a little bit more soft black because we want the stem to stand out. And we're just going to push down, almost like you're making a C stroke. What is that stroke? A stroke where you lay it down. Get thinner as you come up off of it. Not that stroke has just gone out of my head. Okay, with this one over here, it's pretty dark. So I don't know, we'll probably have to highlight this one a little bit. Okay, this one is on top. That one I use mostly soft black with a little bit of red. Okay, this one is on top. I think we'll have to come back and highlight some of these a little bit. This one is on top here. You just want to pull that color into the into that middle vein a little bit. Okay, and then this one here actually should have been coming from that direction, but it's not, so I'll just give it its vein there. Now I just want to go in, I think I'll just go in with some marigold. Clean my brush because that soft black is going to make it look green. A little bit of marigold, I think, is all I need to give these stems a little bit of a highlight. we're going to have berries and acorns and stuff in there, so some of that's going to be covered up. We won't see a lot of it. Okay, those are your basic leaves right there. That didn't take very long at all. We've got it done. Okay, now I want you to transfer your acorns and berries on here. I am just going to draw mine on here. I'm just using a dressmaker's pencil. So just draw your acorns and berries on here. So I've got a couple of berries here. Got 3 berries here. Got an acorn here. One here. And one here. Oops. And some berries. And this is you don't have to place them where I'm placing them. If you have some spots on yours that are you don't like the way they look, put an acorn or a berry over it right there. A couple of berries right here and an acorn right here. Okay, I'm just placing them where I placed them on my original one. Okay, now your pumpkins down here, you could go ahead and transfer the pattern in. So I'm just going to draw them in. I like using the dressmaker's pencil because when I paint or I get water on it, then it just disappears. I don't have to worry about it being set in my piece at all. Alright, got the rest of all of our patterns drawn in right here, so we're ready to go. We are going to base coat in the berries with lavender and the acorns with cocoa. So I'm going to get that done and come back and show you how to finish those up. Okay, I've got my acorns and my berries base coated. So I'm going to show you how to finish a couple of them out, and then I'm going to go finish the rest so we can move down to the pumpkins. Okay, so for the berries we want to take black plum, we need black plum, light buttermilk, and ultramarine blue on our palette. You don't need very much of any of these colors. Okay, so we're going to float a shading underneath on the bottom of the berries. Now, if yours is a smaller piece and you don't feel like you can float that small, you can just line it with the black plum. I'm using a number 6 curve flat. You could use a 1/4 inch or an 1/8 inch angle brush, depending on the size of your berries. So we're just going to do black plum. Let me get some water drops on my palette here. Black plum on the bottoms of the berries. So I'm going to finish this little cluster up here of the berries and the acorns so you can see how to finish them. And then I will finish the rest of them and we'll get ready to move on to the pumpkins. So I just floated some black plum on the bottom of those. Now, ideally, we want to do that 2 times. When you float, you always want to do it twice. The second float can be a much lighter float than your first one. You just want to fill in any gaps that the first float did not get. Okay? Now on the highlight, we're going to just brush mix lavender, which is the base color of the berries, and a little bit of buttermilk. It's not quite 1-to-1 on those two colors. So you'll just have to kind of mix that and see how it looks on your brush when you apply it. If it looks too light, then you might want to. Again, if you're doing a much smaller berry, I hope you were on camera for that, probably not. So I just floated that color on the tops of those. Okay. I always touch back with my finger. Now I want to take my liner brush, and I want to dip into my light buttermilk and put a teeny tiny, and you don't have to do all the berries, a little highlight on there. It looks big on the camera, but that's just because you're so close to it. I want to make sure those are dry. So I'm going to make a wash of ultramarine blue. And you'll do this to all the berries. And I'm just going to wash this over those berries. Okay? And that's how you do the berries. Now on the acorns, we want to have soft black and light buttermilk. I have both those on my palette. So I'm going to dip my brush into soft black. That's what's on the tip of it. Just soft black. Then I'm going to dip into some light buttermilk with the same brush. So now you can see I have both colors on there. I want to make sure I can see both colors. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to dab it on the top of the acorn. Now that doesn't have enough soft black for me, too much light buttermilk, so I just went and dipped back into the soft black. Give it kind of a little bit of a crown there. You'll do this for each one of these. You'll probably have to clean your brush after every couple because it will start getting muddy on your brush. You can turn your acorns however you want them to be turned. And see, that one's got a lot of light buttermilk on it. I actually think I put that on the wrong side of that acorn. So I'm just going to take it off. Couldn't really see where my angle was on that one. This is actually the top of it over here. Tap that on there. You kind of want to see both colors and you want it to look bumpy. Okay, I think in the instructions I said to shade first, which is what I should have done. So we're going to get some burnt umber out. And if yours is small, you're working on a very small piece like those coasters that I worked on. I did float them, but probably would have been a little bit easier if I had just lined them. Okay, I'm going to float underneath the crown of it. Okay, now on my original one, I did float the outside of it too, just a little bit, because you have a hard time seeing the shape. Now you could line this as well, so it really is. So now you can see the acorns a little bit better. Then I repeated the float just underneath the cap with soft black. And then after you do that, if you feel like you need to shade again on the outside bottom of it to get that shape defined a little bit, more prominent, then you can do that. And I think I will do that one more time with the burnt umber, just on the bottom edge. A little bit darker so I can see that shape. Okay, that's looking much better. Okay, now we're going to highlight in the center of that. And I'm just going to use my little round brush. This is a number 2 round. I'm going to pick up some buttermilk on my brush. I've got it on there. And now I'm going to go wipe some of it off on my paper towel. I'm just going to gently, I'm barely touching, add a little highlight in the center of this acorn. Okay. Well, looks bright on there, I know, but it's not. And when you get yours done, if it's too bright, take the cocoa, make a wash, and wash it back. Okay, and the last thing on the acorns is to put a little stem, and I just use soft black. And I just pulled a little stem into each one. Okay, and that's how you finish up your acorns. So I'm going to go finish up my berries and my acorns. Then we're going to come back and we're going to dry brush some lavender in the leaves, and then we'll be completely done with our leaves. Okay, I've got all my berries and acorns done, so now I'm just taking some of this lavender and dry brushing it onto these leaves, close to where the berries are, like a reflective light from the berries. It just brings that color around and down through the leaves. Brush here. It's just a little bit, I didn't like that, it's a little muddy. Okay, that looks much better. Alright, so we've got our lavender dispersed throughout the leaves up there. So we are done with our leaves. Now, aren't those just the most gorgeous leaves ever? Yes. Okay. Let me wide angle out. We're going to start working on our pumpkins. Okay. The middle pumpkin here. Let me get a new piece of pile of paper. We are going to shade with Georgia clay plus a touch of burnt umber. Let's get some fresh paint out here. Georgia clay, burnt umber, and then we will also need some tomato red. It's our second shading. It says to add the tomato red in with that. Okay, and we will highlight with cad yellow and light buttermilk. So we'll get those colors out. Spritz some water drops on our palette. And we're ready to go. Okay, again, let's see, this is a 12. I think I'm going to go down to a 10 curved flat. So let's start on the middle pumpkin here. We're going to mix, brush mix, okay, we're going to take Georgia clay and just a touch of burnt umber. So that means you're going to put Georgia clay on your brush, just straight Georgia clay on your brush, and then just tip your toe into the burnt umber. Okay, so you've just got that mix there, and we're just going to go right in here and start shading. And I can already see I need to add a tiny bit more of burnt umber in my mix. More water. You can see those lines that I painted on with the dressmakers, or drew on with the dressmaker's pencil. When I go over them, they're just disappearing, so I don't have to worry about them being set into my paint. And you can get those at Joann's or any fabric store. This particular one that I use came with white, green, and pink lead. Because this is a larger pumpkin than was on my original one, I'll have to either spread this float out farther or come back and dry brush or dry rub. It's that color. You can tell where I started to put it on there, it was a little dark, and I went back with my finger and wiped it down, so it's a lot darker right there. I'm going to have to adjust that as I paint. I'll probably have to do this particular color one more time. I'm going by my instructions to make sure that what I typed up is correct, because I have a tendency when I am designing, if I don't design on camera and I design off camera and then come back and film what I've designed, that what I have typed up may not necessarily be exactly what I did. So I want to make sure, because you know, I will write it down as I go, but then as I'm typing it up, I'm thinking, is that right? So I always like to double check and make sure. So I'm going to come back and refloat this area again, and I'm going to add the tomato red in with the burnt umber. Do that color, because I think that will make it look a little bit better. Got it too far over on my brush here. Okay, burnt umber and tomato red this time. It's about equal mix. Might be a little bit more on the burnt umber than there is on the tomato red. Okay, my brush is too dry. Get my mop brush out and smooth that a little bit. Dry. Burnt umber, tomato red. Soft pressure when you're floating. Don't feel like you have to get it all in one fell swoop. The walk-up method is perfect for floating. Soft pressure, lay your brush flat. That will blend it out a little bit and make it a little bit softer as you go with that float. That looks pretty good on that. Okay, let's create some highlights on here. It says cad yellow, and then cad yellow with light buttermilk. Now I know because these pumpkins are a little bit bigger, I am going to have to dry rub on these. So I think I will just go right ahead, dry rub that shading in. So burnt umber, and tomato, red. It's pretty red. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of that Georgia clay. Rub that in there, bring it out a little bit. The more your paint starts coming out of your brush, or the less paint you have in your brush, the harder you can push with it to get what's left in there on your piece. Now I can see that is way too hard of a line right there. So I'm going to get my persimmon, which is what I base coated this one in with. And I'm going to pick some of that up on this brush. And do it a couple times to work that shading color out. And then I'm going to work it in here, kind of soften that back down in there. We got a highlight in there, so it'll be alright. Okay, let's highlight, and our highlight is, first we're going to do with cat yellow. We'll do this on the opposite side that you did the shading. Definitely will need a mop brush here. Soften that. Mop it very gently. You don't want to remove the paint, and if you push too hard with your mop brush, you'll just take the paint that you put on there right off. That's pretty hard. Hard little float there. I can't soften that back a little bit. This time I am going to go in the paint because I want to remove some of that paint that I put on there. Just a little bit too hard of a line. Okay, let's get this side. We're going to be shading at the very bottom, so if it doesn't get all the way to the bottom, that's okay. Let's flip it around here and do the other side. Definitely need more water. Mop that. Now, when we get done with this, we'll be washing over this pumpkin with our base color. So if you're thinking the highlight looks pretty bright, don't worry. We will definitely do a little wash on these. My highlights are pretty thin. They're not, they probably look bright on the video here, but they are not. They are pretty toned down little float. Okay. We're going to do that again. This time we're going to add a little bit of light buttermilk in. Paint's already starting to dry here. A little bit of light buttermilk in with that. Just a touch. this more towards the center. Don't have to go all the way to the top or all the way to the bottom with this one. Keep it in the highest places here. Walk that over just a little bit, just a scooch. I'm giving very light pressure when I'm floating. Now I did go into the paint there because I had it a little bit heavier than what I wanted. I don't have near enough water on my brush here. I'm thinking these floats are a little bit washy. I think that has lost its yellow color a little bit, so I want to go back in and put some more yellow in there. I'm going to do that with some dry brushing though, instead of floating it. So I'm going to get my brush. I've still got that orange on there, but I'm going to try and work that orange out of it. In here. Now this center one here will mostly be highlighted. Need some more cat yellow here. Pumpkin glow on there. We're going to use a little bit of burnt umber and shade along the bottom here. Then I'm going to go over and show you how to do one of the outside pumpkins. And the other one will be done exactly the same. All of these pumpkins will be shaded on the bottom with burnt umber. I'm just going to walk that up a little bit, and then I'm going to mop, soften, and blend it. Don't want any hard lines. Okay, I'll probably repeat that again. I think I'm also going to take some of this and put it just straight burnt umber down in a couple of places on this pumpkin to give it the look of, you know, those are a little bit deeper grooves in there. And this is just burnt umber. Now, I'm going to do this pumpkin, but you'll do all of the pumpkins. I want to rub some greens on this pumpkin, and maybe some more reds just in random areas. And you can also put some lavenders on here if you want, but I stuck the lavender mostly up here in the stem. So I'm going to put some green on here. So I've just loaded my dry brush, the same one that I was using, just dirty brushed it. And I'm just going to put some random greens on here. This kind of brings the pumpkin up to the leaves, you know, brings it all, lets it flow together. Alright, I'm going to go get some red. Put a little bit of that on there. Not too much. This color can sure overtake a pumpkin. Okay, let's float some burnt umber down here at the bottom again. Too much water, not enough paint. Okay. Now I want to glaze over this pumpkin with the persimmon. So I'm just going to create a glaze, which is mostly water. I would say about 85 to 90% water. And the rest is paint. And you don't want your brush sopping wet where it's just running off of your brush. Just fill your brush with that paint, that glaze, and brush over the pumpkin. Okay, I am going to take my mop brush and gently dab that, because especially in my highlight areas, you don't want them too dark. Okay. So that's how we do that pumpkin. Okay. Now I'm going to do this pumpkin out here, and then I'm going to do one stem and show you how to do that. I want to make sure we have enough room on this DVD to get everything in. The outside pumpkins are, shade them with Georgia clay, then Georgia clay plus burnt umber. I've already got that on my palette. So let's spin it around here. Do Georgia clay first. See, I stayed up on my toe right there when I was really close to that edge. Gently mop those. Okay, I want to make sure that they are dry. So let me try them real quick. So we can do that again. We're going to add just a tiny bit of burnt umber into that Georgia clay, just a touch. We don't want the shading to end up being as dark as what these are. We do need it darker there, so I may come back with just straight burnt umber underneath, right here where that pumpkin lays on top of the other one. Having to work too hard at that float, so I knew that my brush was out of both paint and water. So go back and fix that. Now I'm going to do just a little bit darker here where this pumpkin lays on top of this other one. It's setting in front of it. So right here I want it darker. Gently, gently mop. Okay. Now the highlights on these are going to be marigold and then cad yellow. So let me get some marigold. Kind of fades back in there quite a bit, but it's a good first step. Got to build those layers. Definitely don't want to try and get there all in one fell swoop, because it won't look like it needs to look. Okay, now we want to do some cad yellow on there. This is going to be more in the center areas like I did that over there. Now this pumpkin is a little bit smaller, so I probably won't have to do any dry rubbing on it. I will dry rub probably some greens on here. Maybe a little bit of red. It's not a very big pumpkin, but I do want to bring all those colors together. So, softening that. Some green on here. Let's make sure this is dry. Now we can add a final highlight on here with some cad yellow and some light buttermilk. Just a, let's see if that's going to be two. We're going to glaze over this one as well. That's alright. Alright. Let me dry that. Some greens on here. Okay, that dirtied that pumpkin up nicely. I like that. Okay, burnt umber. Get a little bit more of that. We're going to shade along the bottom, and I think one more time, I think I'm going to have to highlight that one right there because it's not standing up like I need it to stand up. So let me get a little bit lighter color on there. Straight cat yellow, I think. Right. I went ahead and did each one of these because what I do to one, I need to do to all. And if I added a highlight right there, if I just did it on this one, it was going to be too bright. Alright, burnt umber along the bottom. Lock that up. We'll have to repeat that because I had way too much water in my brush there. brush flat so that will widen the float, and then just walk it up a little bit. And gently mopping the water edge, barely in that paint area. You don't want to remove it. Okay, I want to put some more of this behind that pumpkin. Alright, while we have this burnt umber on our brush, let's see how the stems go. We're going to shade them with burnt umber. So, on the inside, I'm going to have to go to my smaller brush here. I'll go to my 6 curve flat. I don't know, that one might not be big enough. I might have to go back up to the 10. That was the 12 that I had working on these pumpkins. So you would have been using a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch angle if you're using an angle brush. But now you will go down to a 1/4 inch if you're using an angle brush. Alright, I want to look at my pattern and see what I did here. My original one here. Now these little indent areas that are on this, that come up like this, we're going to go to this side of them and float up. Do one more on this one more small one here. While we have burnt umber, we want to go underneath here. Let me zoom you in a little bit for this. Just floating underneath. Get that defined on top of the pumpkin there. And we'll come back and intensify that with some soft black underneath there. And then we'll use some soft black up here in our very darkest areas. So your soft black won't be used everywhere. It will just be used like where the deepest little indents are. And that really makes that look shadowed in there. And then up here, just where it's the deepest areas. Okay. Now we're going to highlight with light buttermilk. Worrying about the back because the black, I will go and touch that up. Got the paint just a little bit far on my brush, so a little bit over. Okay, if you're doing a smaller pumpkin, some of these areas, some of these smaller areas you can use a liner brush on. Okay, and this is how all of the stems will be done. And then your final step on the stems will be to dry rub some persimmon or Georgia clay on there, some lavender. So I've got persimmon here. I'm going to work that into this already dirty brush. Oops. And just put a little bit of that on here. Okay, and then I want some lavender on there. I'm going to bring that lavender down to these pumpkins. Now, like I said, you can put some of this on your pumpkins, this lavender, if you so choose to do. And that lavender is just a tad bit muddy there. Alright, so I might put a little bit down here. There, so you can kind of bring all the colors down to it. And that is all we are going to do. I mean, once you finish this other pumpkin and the stem, touch up your black background wherever it is that you need to touch it up, and then your project is done. Thank you so much for painting with me.